As someone who has criticized Bethesda a lot in the past few months, and even since the release of Starfield Shattered Space, I have to say, I don't believe Starfield as a video game or as a single player live service game like Bethesda has made it out to be is worth saving. The initial launch of the game was met with much praise by even myself, someone who has criticized the game and been very vocal about the issues with Starfield and Bethesda in the current day. But I feel like 2025 should be the year Bethesda either leaves Starfield with a skeleton crew to keep up with Creation Club content, maybe some patches every once in a while, or they just abandon the game entirely to fully focus on the Elder Scrolls 6. My main reason for this is that I don't believe Bethesda can fix Starfield. I don't think even modders to an extent could fix Starfield. And I really feel like in the end, it's going to be just one last ditch effort to regain some sort of support, is that Bethesda is going to be releasing Starfield on the PlayStation 5 like Microsoft has been doing for a lot of their other first party titles. And while releasing the game on the PlayStation 5 can inject possibly millions of people into the game and making another few $100 million for Bethesda and Microsoft, I don't believe unless Bethesda can drop a DLC that completely fixes every single issue with the game, and for that to happen they would have to overhaul the entire game, that it's worth supporting the game with DLCs every year. A while back, Todd Howard stated that he wanted to release one single player DLC update for Starfield every single year. Mainly, near the end of the year, it gives Bethesda enough time to develop these DLCs and expansions, and also gives them enough time to work on the Elder Scrolls 6 and other future content. If Shattered Space is any indication on the quality and the size of the content that we're going to be getting for future updates, especially since Shattered Space is extremely clearly just a cut of a rune questline that Bethesda never finished, then releasing more content like that can only bring Bethesda's reputation down even further. And I feel like that's where Bethesda is stuck. They're stuck in a situation where, yeah, maybe some developers really do want to make DLC content for the game. They want to improve the game with quality of life patches and maybe kind of just reworking how the game works in a lot of the ways. But is it worth that investment? Fallout 76 needed that investment because Bethesda realized that was the only money they were going to be making from the Fallout IP until Fallout 5 came out. But I myself am not looking forward to a Starfield 2, or realistically to any future Starfield content. I will play it, I will review it, and I will attempt to enjoy it, and I will praise Bethesda if they did a good job. But more likely than not, they're probably going to be releasing another Shattered Space DLC type of content that's going to be extremely lackluster, extremely boring in segments, and just not what we wanted from a patch and an update that was really supposed to fix a lot of the game's issues, especially the exploration of Starfield. Starfield is a game with so many ideas and concepts that I really believe it could have been really good and really well connected and all gelled together if the game is executed better, under a better game engine, or maybe even a developer. But it doesn't work under the Creation Engine 2. There were bugs and issues in Starfield that were actually in the previous games that they put out, in Fallout 4 and in even Skyrim. Issues that have been there for over a decade that Bethesda still, to this day, has not been able to seem to patch out. It's astounding to me how they can literally overhaul an engine, a bigger overhaul than they did between Morrowind and Oblivion, and yet simple basic issues were not fixed. Bethesda created Starfield with the concept of the player enjoying the game and playing the game for the next several years as they do work on the Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. And that is where I have stated, and state again, that they have failed with the game. Creating something, especially when it's single player, needs to have a quality, enjoyable, deep, and engaging gameplay loop to give us a reason to keep playing it. And people saw that with every single other Bethesda game before Starfield, even Fallout 76, Starfield was a downgrade. Even the small team that made Fallout 76 had created one of the best maps out of Bethesda's portfolio. In my opinion, I really feel like the Appalachian map of 76 is absolutely a fantastic area to explore. It's extremely colorful. In some situations, it can be drop dead gorgeous when the lighting hits just right, but when you compare that to Starfield, Bethesda came in with a procedurally generated 1,000 planet game and wanted us to create our own fun with the playground that they gave us. Unfortunately, that playground was filled with the worst toys you can find in a sandbox. I mean, when the majority of the missions were just land here, walk 300, 400 meters, do the objective, leave, and re-loop that 50 times and boom, the main quest is done, that is piss poor game design. That is extremely outdated game design. And it took them almost a year to introduce a buggy. And that buggy, matter in fact, I will praise Bethesda for, did make the game a lot more fun and did make the exploration in the game a lot more bearable. But if we have to wait an entire year in your single player game in order to get something that should have been there day one, and I'm even betting that Bethesda knew that the buggy should have been in there day one, because in the first few weeks of launch, and I guarantee this came up in QA testing, that exploring planets was extremely boring. Running 300 meters to an objective is so annoying and was just extremely repetitive. Instead of giving us this cool buggy with a boost and with missiles and with a laser gun, that was really cool. But it took you a year to do it, and the majority of the players aren't coming back to drive in your barren planets. The game released with some of the worst exploration by Bethesda that they've ever presented to us in, I feel like, their entire history of making video games. And that's not even accounting for the other issues that the game had that they, again, released later on. The Creation Club, it took them like 6 months to release that. And yeah, it was really cool that they got modders to work on stuff before they officially launched the Creation Club. But right now, all it is paid mods, because Bethesda decided to force achievements behind those paid mods. So the only way console players can play with mods, or even with really simple mods, like say a different looking buggy, if you want a different colored buggy that's achievement friendly, yeah, you have to pay for it. Bethesda can't even allow for simple stuff like changing the colors of guns, or even different little models of guns to be free, unless modders make you pay for it. But the true end problem with Starfield are the bones of the game. They can't be fixed. The lackluster main story cannot be fixed. The lackluster companions, even though I hate saying that, cannot be fixed. Bethesda can fix the bugs, but not their outdated quest design. You can't bring these voice actors back to bring meaningful writing to the game. You can't do that. Yeah, you can fix the protagonist because they're not voiced, but Sam, Sarah, Andreja, Vasco, and even Barrett, you can't fix that. I wanted those characters to be extremely interesting, like Piper was, or like Strong was from Fallout 4, even any of your Fallout 3 companions like Fox. Those companions were extremely well written and had motive behind them. Starfield, it's not. In Starfield, all 4 companions are from one faction. In Fallout 4, you had like 11, 12 companions. They all came from different breeds, factions. You had a robot detective. You'll never make a companion as cool as Nick Valentine. I don't think they'll ever do that. Bethesda would need to completely recreate this game to get the majority of players back. And even then, in my opinion, I'm not even sure a lot of people would even bother. In my opinion, Bethesda should again leave a skeleton crew or just completely abandon any future development of Starfield after the PS5 release and after the next expansion they put out, because they probably do have something they're developing and they're probably happy to be releasing it for us. But at this point, I don't want it. I want to see you guys put out the Elder Scrolls 6 so you can finally get to work on Fallout 5, because I believe that a lot of other Bethesda fans don't care about this game. I really do. Like, you might be a minority in the subject here. If you really care about Starfield and its future updates, you are definitely a minority. Most of us probably want to see them make the Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. And I bet a lot of us are worried too, because if you're putting out something like Starfield, we take away all the loading screens. What is left? You still have lackluster companions, lackluster main story, lackluster everything like I stated earlier. You even put some good exploration into the game. That can't save your poor writing and narrative. And I really feel like that's just a culture problem at Bethesda. Emil Pagliaro, I don't think I said that right, I might have, but he has a real problem with how he handles writing in Bethesda games, because he's the guy that thinks that players don't care, that they just want to live in the world. No, we want to actually have interesting interactions with the characters that you write, that you create, and yet you think we just want to live in these worlds. Bethesda thinks that they want us to live in these worlds, that we're going to be playing it every day like we did with Fallout 4 or Skyrim, that we're going to be talking with our companions. Like, it's just not what we want out of your game. So we want a solid experience with one open world that is awesome, that has plenty of environmental storytelling, that has plenty of areas to explore, and when we're done with it, we're going to push it off to the side. And if we want to come back, we will. Not a lot of people want to come back for Starfield, and that is the main reason, again, I don't think they should keep supporting it. Bethesda's game design, and as a whole their company and how they create video games, is horribly outdated as well. I feel, again, it would be better for the investment on them focusing on the future of their games that they're going to be producing, instead of attempting to fix something that has very few positives going for it. In the end, I did want to see Starfield succeed. I wanted it to release as a 10 out of 10 game, and I don't believe anyone in our gaming community wanted to see this game fail in the way it did. It did garner millions of players and probably make hundreds of millions of dollars for the company, but the game was literally created for the sole purpose of player retention, and it could not achieve that, and I believe that is why the game is doomed. Bethesda went too big. They attempted something that was way out of their expertise, and instead of creating handcrafted planets with hundreds of points of interest in interesting areas to explore, they got lazy and decided to create the game with a profit and retention first motive. They went with the concepts of DLC packs first, player retention first, microtransactions in the forms of paid mods first, instead of great exploration, well-written characters, and really good RPG mechanics. Within a few years, I have no doubt the modders that are left with this game can add more content and bring the game to what we expected from Bethesda from the start. But until then, we are left with a soulless video game created by a studio that is best known for single-world, semi-linear role-playing games and not expansive, procedurally generated gameplay. Bethesda, this is a call for you to abandon the game after your inevitable, 100% gonna happen, PS5 release and the next DLC. I get leaving a few developers left on the game if they'd like to patch it and provide community support for the last few thousand people that are playing the game consistently, but other than that, it's time to pull the plug. The game, amazing concepts, don't get me wrong. I feel like a lot of the aspects of the game you really could have nailed. You just unfortunately fumbled the ball, and I really feel like it's time to let it go. You cannot fix the core problems of Starfield unless you intend on leaving a lot of development and a lot of people towards fixing this game. You cannot Fallout 76, No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk 2077, Starfield. Those games, especially even 76, had good bones. This game doesn't. They could literally remove every single loading screen from this game and allow us to land from planet to space like completely seamlessly like in No Man's Sky. I don't think that can fix the game. The issues are at the core of the gameplay, of the RPG mechanics, and of the writing itself. And look, all of those things that I originally stated, like the seamless flying and the seamless landing, would be really cool to have in a space game, but unfortunately Bethesda doesn't have that technology to do that. I'm hoping Elder Scrolls 6 as well can really pull back. You don't need to go crazy. You really don't. I don't really feel like they need to have this extreme massive map that's unnecessarily large, full of nothing. It's just a few cities and maybe a few skeletons here and there. Make an extremely detailed and extremely environmentally heavy world, and we're good. That's all we want from you. We just want a fun world to explore with hopefully well-written companions and a decent main story. Thank you all for watching this video. If you did enjoy, consider leaving a like, sharing, commenting, and subscribing if you so choose to. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think about all this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.